great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Let's share the screen. So for our viewers, we have Pro Talk here, but I will explain certain things, and you maybe certain things in a little more detail, or like some lingo that we use, so that others can also follow who may be not that advanced. Okay.
Understood.
All right. Would you like a brief tour, or would you like to first start with what you found and start a little later in the interpretation to skip the basics, so to speak? What would you like?
Say I could start with just explaining to where I've gotten to, because
Great.
For sure,
Awesome.
I started with asking you about the togetherness of the chart with Yod, with the discrepancy of having the sign actual constellation through the entire middle of it, which I've not found much information on. So Sagittarius going right through the middle of it, for example. And then what I've found is a battling between sign differentials. So with the Yod, for example, what I've been having trouble finding is you have Gemini moon as the crux of it. Okay. Subconscious and emotion, right? But what I fail to understand, for what I've been able to find, is when looking at the base of it and you have Neptune and Pluto, you're supposed to have a base foundation that basically helps towards functioning of the crux of the point. Whereas in my experience, what I can look for, and I found and I experienced, Neptune and Pluto as my base are not necessarily additions in a positive way in any regard. Pluto being very subconscious, and Neptune being in Capricorn as its constellation being very authoritative, and Pluto mixed with Gemini moon, which is typically subconscious and emotion, doesn't seem to be a positive thing. And so I've had a lot of trouble reconciling with finding that aspect along with the other ones. I can't find any significance with having, I believe it's 5 individual wedges at the chart on the bottom. They're almost all directly a few degrees after each other, which also directly shoots into multiple stelliums.
Yeah, true.
So that's what I've had issue with. Is I understand the sign differential. Okay, you're in the whatever house you're in, fair. But I cannot seem to put together the entirety of the chart with those many aspects with the Yod, and what is the overall picture and significance of it. And it's been very frustrating for me.
Okay. Maybe let's start with the Yod and then probably hop through the others as they interlink. What I see here with the moon in Gemini is that it points at the ruler of the subconscious, because the moon rules the 12th house. And basically, like moon in Gemini would indicate lightheartedness. If the ruler of the subconscious is in the 11th house with the friends and with lighthearted talk, you would draw a lot of inspiration from exactly this. So the subconscious and the conversations would kind of positively interlink. And here I see what you said, where there's like heavy base of the Yod with Pluto and Neptune. Because like if we look at Pluto, for instance, Pluto in the 4th house could be like a subconscious memory of your heritage, like ancestors.
That is definitely a big deal in my family, so that would be true.
And we already see like a discrepancy in like a heaviness of ancestral memory and lighthearted talk. So it's kind of like there you would have challenge to, in a lighthearted manner, uncover and maybe heal, and in an inspirational way, because the quincunx is like an inspirational aspect, in an inspired way, tackling the issue, like through these conversations and the subconscious aiding to it, you would get the idea what it is that you can tackle and heal.
Okay.
honestly, I think that the moon here is not just for emotions, but also for the psyche in terms of mental, like that you can mentally grab, because Gemini is for like concrete knowledge and thinking, and that you can really start grabbing the theme that you're after and convert it, like make it yours. Like, what is it that we learn from like ancestral memory that's maybe like stuck somewhere in our subconscious where we don't easily get hold of it, and that you have the opportunity to get hold of it, to grab it with like these deja vu moments. Like you would speak to someone and then suddenly you recognize some theme.
No, absolutely. That's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Is I've battled with, so you're not wrong.
Okay, so I think that there is like the issue of the yod, that this almost lighthearted approach to uncovering the unconscious would be the challenge here. So that would mean the yod would tell you it's not like hard-on struggle to get and fight to find the things in the unconscious that's been passed down from ancestral memory, maybe, or like a family history, something like that, that would need to be healed, and that the message is it doesn't need to be difficult.
Understood.
So
That's
if you put it on an ease, on more ease, like that's why we have the moon as like a symbol, like a bow, because we won't get inspiration like with Aries, like by shooting at something and being after something. We'll get it, but get it being open. And the approach, I think, would be here to use your brain, like literally with the physical function of the brain, like as Gemini indicates for knowledge, that you can prompt your brain with a question before you go into a conversation. And then your brain would much easier prompt you back with an answer. And you would know it. You would recognize when the answer arrives. Because what the brain does, this is my main profession actually, the cognition science.
Oh gosh.
It's like awesome to get. I mean, I think Carl Gustav Jung, his archetypes, and he was a brilliant astrologer, right?
See, I didn't know about his astrology actually, but
it's like, wow.
Yes, Jungian psychology with the shadow, yes.
Yeah, and there's so much that you can use also here and vice versa. And so what the brain does, if you prompt it with a question, you cannot stop it from going, that it goes to fetch.
Yep.
It fetches the answer. It would run off and you would have to deliberately concentrate on something else to
You have to catch it.
Yeah, to catch it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this ease in like communicating with your mind would help you uncover a lot. And it would also mean that on the one hand, Pluto with the ancestral memory here would support this brain function and the psychological practice that you can use in this context. Mm-hmm. But the finger is the lightheartedness. The finger of the yod is the lightheartedness with the moon. And one component would be the Pluto, and I would actually like to stick a little longer with Pluto because it's part of a lot of networks here also with the trine to the healing, the Chiron that you have in the 12th house indicates also the healing of the subconscious and the emotion, because in Cancer, and the family, because in Cancer. So we have the theme come back there as well. And there is a trine, so also like the ease is indicated. Also there doesn't need to be hard on. It also looks like, as for now, it looks like this is supposed to go easy. So it's a heavy theme, but it's supposed to be easy and interesting.
So would it be correct to assume then, so from my perspective at least, look at letting go, kind of letting it come to, not badgering down on the subject and, grinding to find the answers, just let it, come basically.
Yeah, let it come.
Because I mean, that's definitely how my past has gone. Not to make anything personal for sure, but I mean, tons, my father died when I was 2 weeks old, never even knew him. He was military.
Shame. Yeah. Sorry to hear.
He was military. I was military. I'm retired from it. And it goes all the way back to, 1100s Germany. Like, I've definitely looked into that area, like you're mentioning. And so that's something, that's why I said it resonates with me a lot, because without me even giving you information, you're hitting it in an area of my life that I've definitely focused a ton of mental understanding of.
Okay.
So it definitely is true.
Oh, that's interesting, because the one thing that you might not have come across yet, is because ancient teaching, is the enclosed sign. Have you heard about this? If a sign doesn't have an own house, and Scorpio here and Taurus doesn't have a planet, so it doesn't matter in that case, but your Pluto is in an enclosed sign. That in turn would mean that the content or the information associated with such a planet can only be freed under pressure. Now, this is a contradiction.
Yes.
Because we just said, no, yes. That's very easy. And now here we're saying it's kind of free under pressure. Now we have to check why this is. There we have a square to Mercury in the first house.
Yep.
Like the noble thinker Mercury in Leo. Noble thinking, noble thoughts. But pressurizes Pluto. So this is what you've been trying probably, to like get after this thing hard on. And then Pluto, but also has this like very inspired sextile to Neptune. He has like a magical quincunx to a light-hearted moon. And then he has a trine to the healer, Chiron.
I was a medic in the Army, so.
Okay. Wow. Well,
and this is where my confusion was coming from my psychology of it, because that's the thing, is I saw a lot of opposition to the signs, Jupiter and Pluto and, the emotional side of things. And that's something I've really tried hard to cultivate in my life, because my career was, you have to fix someone, in combat. You can't have time to give them empathy and it'll be okay. Is I need to do my job or someone could die. And so I've always understood that, and so I saw the lot of the sign combating basically is, this emotional side of stuff, but then trauma healing and healer. And so coming at it with my own personal issues, it's like, well, made no sense.
Oh, okay. I understand. But you know what this actually reminds me of? Someone with, I won't say a similar condition, but also with a Jupiter condition in such an environment that you describe, is Henri Dunant, the founder of the Red Cross. He went onto the battlefield of Solferino and saw all the pain and the chaos and the injured soldiers. And he stood there and said, now this is not the time for breaking down in tears, but for organizing help. And basically the Red Cross is such an organization that came out of someone not breaking down from the pain shared with others, but from putting himself together and organizing help. And that's basically also what you did. And with Dunant, it was the Jupiter in Scorpio, seeing the pain and organizing. And interestingly enough, Pluto has a very organizing power, like power, literally. And I think this would point at this as well, so that there it comes together. This is like the power of organizing also, because every planet has several meanings. So it's like with the tarot cards. Every card has several meanings, and you have to puzzle out which meaning would actually make sense here. And in many cases, you have several meanings also in one chart. Yeah, so I think that this would relate to your moon, because if you had done the same job with a Pisces moon, you wouldn't have managed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, seeing people die in combat is something that only certain moon constellations can withstand.
Oh, and that's the thing is I went into it at first understand, like, wanting to use that what I thought lack of empathy for myself as a helping measure, because of I joined the military with a different job, and then I changed after 3 years to a medic, just to appease my more interest. So it's like you said, the motive there was definitely to change to help myself, because I saw a lot of disorganization with it. I was a very frustrated soldier in my first contract with the health side of things. Like, this is not right. There needs to be fixing. So I switched in that same regard, for that same meaning, to fix, but from a very organized book answer type system, not from the emotional. So I've always recognized that I have the lacking of application of empathy towards the health field, because I see it very systematized.
That's probably because of the Saturn and the start of the 6th house, that you see everything health related with great discipline. Because Saturn is like domiciled, as it's called in Capricorn. And so it's in its best quality, and it's a very disciplined attitude. So I can see this with you, definitely. And also helps a little bit in this Yod figure, although it's like a much too distant aspect to be in the Yod, but it has an aspect to Neptune. And through this, it would be drawn into the Yod because of the conjunct to
the power to it.
Yeah. And this would also stabilize Neptune. And we were still at Pluto. Yeah. Just to finish this, like being freed under pressure. The Mercury pressure onto Pluto doesn't work.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because Mercury is like cute there, but it's like running against the wall. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's been, again, a running theme, is I'm not one to force that area. My wife will even ask, oh, how was your day? I'm like, it was a day. I mean, I don't push anything to cultivate the mental aspect, as it were. So I'd understand that. I just kind of go with the flow a lot. I just exist, and my wife gets really upset about that.
Oh, yeah, but still, like this flexible attitude to be interested in finding out more. This is this beauty of the moon in Gemini, that is not rigid at all. It's extremely flexible, so you would adapt to all kinds of situations, and would have this endless curiosity to find out more.
Always. Yeah. That's what I do. I'm always reading a book. I'm always looking something up online. If I hear even a single point that somebody makes, I'm like, I need to look that up. Hold on.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, very similar. Yeah, Rick, I can relate to that very well. I think that's also the interest in astrology, because we see here the ruler of 7, firstly in the stable sign of Capricorn. So your wife must disagree on certain things, so that's good. And it's expected.
Yes,
this is normal.
Debating is a pastime in our house.
Yes.
The dinner table involves talk. So
yeah, that's good, because it will always be interesting, because she's certainly a smart person, as we can see here, because Uranus person is smart, and she came to this life smart. likely. So great talent and intellect. And you see this very positive notion here to Venus. So you would love to talk and we'll talk and talk and talk. So this would be ongoing, but disagreement, but like kind disagreement.
Yep. Yeah. That would be about it. It's we actually don't, we have a thing in our house that we've been married 10 years, we've been together 12, and pretty much since day one, it's been the understanding there is no arguments. We don't argue, we discuss.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely helpful to have that. Yeah. It helps because, as you said, we are very much, we have differences in thinking. She is much more the empath. She is getting her master's in therapy and counseling for elementary age. So she does the empathy thing and I do the academic.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, but that's an important thing to also help, because all the helping and counseling professions also need this type of grounding. Otherwise, you'd be washed away quickly. And so you cannot have enough supervision if you not have like emotional grounding.
Strong base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And absolutely. So you have this by nature. You don't need to train much for it. So I'm sure it would also be a good example for her in dealing with issues.
Oh yeah, she definitely knows that. So this whole pandemic thing that's happened, you know, she's kind of resoundingly been more affected than I have, being that she works in school and stuff. And so for her, she often will look at me and she goes, what do we need to do? Well, do A, B, and C. Well, then that's it. Yes, that's it.
Oh, yeah,
just sit back and relax.
Yeah.
So definitely along those lines for sure.
Yeah, great. Coming back to the Pluto, I think honestly that the what we can do with Pluto is one. I mean, my teacher said this to us. We had classes for years, and now and again he would have with all of us a meditation about the planet. So today we meditate about Mars. Today we meditate about Mercury. Extremely inspiring. And he said, there's only one planet we don't meditate at, and it's Pluto.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and lately I've actually kind of falling into that pattern of that actually is looking to the chart just last night and reviewing things, walk outside and the moon's like right in my backyard. And I just like stare into the dark and it's like, I feel that coldness that, you know, and yeah, I found a lot of difficulty in grounding with meditation on that actually.
If we found the moon itself is not easy to stare at. So it would trigger a lot more than the moon actually itself contains, because it triggers all the reflection.
Makes sense.
Because everything reflects back. So that's kind of not easy to meditate with the moon.
No, it's almost like a blinding thing.
Introspection. Yeah, it's like extreme introspection in a way. And what I think with your Pluto here, the message is that if Mercury runs against, in the square here, runs against this Pluto and keeps running against it, wanting to know, it won't work, because with Pluto, opposition doesn't work. Yep. Only using the power, friendly using the power and asking questions and taking what is given. And here you have very favorable aspects to the healing and to the mental condition. So I think the message here is basically a kind approach to Pluto through the mind, through questions, through gratefulness will get you far. Yeah. With uncovering the emotion, with healing the emotion, because the healing is even indicated here, it will almost go by itself. You uncover it, and in the moment that you see things, you recognize, this is my history, and it can be healed, and I can let it go.
I like that aspect.
Yeah, that is lovely, because it's two beautiful ones. Yeah.
Well, and like I said earlier, it's something that I've worked on and tried to cultivate with the empathy and letting go and being a very strong, with Leo and Jupiter and Capricorn, all these authoritative power areas. I've always excelled in that, but it's been very hard to let go as well. And so it makes complete sense.
Okay. It doesn't come to mind now because we're actively talking. What I would do is think out the type of meditation that could work well here.
I actually liked what you said about that, is on each aspect and planet, and just doing on a day, dedication to understanding that specifically. Because I am very much a whole picture person. I'll take the ABC facts and then put it into an entire picture much quicker than freaking out about every little single aspect of something.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's very, very round, a picture, but very diverse. Like if you have many people of very different backgrounds in one room, it would be diverse. And this is what your chart is also giving us here, because now you have Leo, but a lot of fire, stellium in Leo, including the rising and the midheaven in fire. Then you have a stellium in Capricorn, which is basically the manifestation and materialization of everything. It means you're not like this wander off person and think something and then it's gone the other day. You would write things down. You would make sense of it. You would make a system from it. You would organize it. You would like to puzzle it out.
Yes.
And
I don't tend to let go of things until I figure it out. So.
Yeah, and then it's established, and then it's in the mind, basically, and stored, and then you get on with the next thing. And it will be ever evolving, because I don't see anything stop you there. So you will be after knowledge your whole life, and it will still interest you, and you will still find something. You'll be busy for 100 years if you could.
Oh yes, please. In your experience, do you see any relationship directly with the stelliums, basically crossing each other in complement scenarios? Does that affect anything on a higher level than just the individual stelliums, if you know what I mean? How they cross?
Yeah, they have a quincunx, like the sun and the rising, especially, and Saturn and Neptune. That's like a little distant, but from 521 to 849 is like 3.5 something degrees. So the quincunx between, like if Saturn has a quincunx, then it's something like magical stabilization. You don't know why, but your sun, for instance, on the rising, would just run off with a project, and Saturn would make you reflect on that before you do it. Always.
Yeah.
And it would be a very healthy reflection. It would be automatic. You don't need to like force yourself to do it. It would come totally natural. And it would be a good thing, because you would then only commit to projects that you think this is sound, this makes sense, this is useful, this has a function, there's something will come out of it and will be okay. And this direction. So I think there is like a very healthy connection between those two stelliums, although typically they would be like antagonist almost.
And that's why I asked, because I tend to pull a lot of power from both angles of that, whereas they be in the quincunx that they are
harmonious.
More,
yeah. I mean, we don't exactly know why, and because it's a quincunx aspect, but it would somehow almost magically, I mean, there's the quincunx style is magically work out. You would draw, especially also inspiration with this Neptune. If we complete the yod, that is also then like in the quincunx to the rising, with Neptune as a supporter. Neptune is like receptiveness, like drawing from the unconscious also, and from beyond spheres into physical application, like into the here and now.
Okay.
So I think if you have this exercise with asking your brain a question, and then you would be a person who would get something like almost tangible, like either a word that you can like read in your mind or hear, or an image that you see, or a smell, something that reminds you. And with the smell or the sound or whatever it is, you would connect to the answer. So basically, it's like on a silver tray, and there's like this one word, and you would know, that's it.
Yeah, that's about accurate. I have internal conversations with myself constantly. I do not out loud talk to myself, but that's again very much a thing.
Yeah, that's the way how you basically connect to these like 80% unconscious, at least 80% unconscious context, and also to the ancestral memory, because it's all inside of yourself. That's like the interesting thing is that the human is composed like the universe, and it's like a hologram. Like one cell contains the entire information. And we call it fractal, because if we don't know what's going on the earth, we look to the sky, and from the constellation we try to tell, okay, what's going on here. And if we don't know what is going on in the chart, like in the sky with the stars, then we look, okay, now what do we have here? And so this is,
we draw it in.
And we draw it in. And this is basically the same thing that works within yourself, that you can basically ask your brain cells then, in that case, and they will go fetch it and bring it back. So you can interact in the same manner, and your brain would deliver the information. You would just have to figure out in which way your brain prefers to deliver information.
That's a good point.
Or is it a smell or something? It would be something almost tangible.
I have a thing with smells. I will smell things, and I look at my wife and, what does that smell? It's familiar. What is that? And it goes to some memory years ago or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So smell for sure. Drawing internally a lot. Conversations with myself on thought process. So very auditory.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that will be it. This is the thing that is indicated with this Neptune, that you can really draw from the subconscious and basically draw the answers from there. So you would pose a question and then leave it. And this is the indication with the easiness. Because if you ask a question and then you're behind the question, like, tell me, then the brain cannot answer because it's too busy with your inquiry. So it's like in IT, if you send too many questions, then the server is like breaks down. And this is the same here.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. So you post a question, like I always found it very funny, like I cannot remember whose quote it is, but the quote goes like, if you order your steak, you don't go into the kitchen every 5 minutes to ask whether it's being prepared. It will be served when it's finished. And this is the same with the brain. And I found this so useful when I start hammering my own brains, like, give me this information. Brains like, oh, no. And then I go onto the treadmill or like walk outside, and then,
Yep. You just release it, and finally it's like, that's right. Yes.
And I think that's the indication of, basically, this is the indication that the yod would deliver here as an information. So you have all those tools, you have the power, and if you do it in an easygoing manner, it will come almost by itself.
I like that. That's interesting. Did the one other question that I had really is if there is any relationship with okay, 3, 4, 5, yes, 5, the wedging, so 5 wedges off the same positions using Gemini, Capricorn, Leo, the same power areas that are consistent in my chart, being that the majority of the wedges also go into they're in the same field of relation to the stelliums. That's something else I've not seen that really is in relation. I didn't know if that had any aspect correlation together, because I've not seen how they are just a few degrees off each other, almost boxing each other in as wedges, but also in the same areas as the stelliums.
True. Okay. I mean, generally the wedges have like easygoing connection, but it's not as self-fulfilling as the trine. But it's
slightly missing something.
It's slightly supportive. Yeah. So the one I would see between the moon and Mercury. And this would also be like slightly supportive if you use Mercury slightly supportive towards your emotionality, brain, memory, it would work really well.
Okay.
If you use force on Pluto, it doesn't work well because Mercury will lose against Pluto so quickly. It's like, no. It's like
I like how you say
that. That's like Pluto doesn't even turn around. So like, huh? What?
Pluto's in the same breath as it destroys everything to rebuild with some mission focus, and that's again why I stay away from the forcing of the area. Why I ask more questions than anything, because it's definitely been an issue for me as well. I just get frustrated.
Yeah, and with Pluto, we can really work well with Pluto if we incorporate it and go with it, but because going against it's not working. As most of the times, not good, to put it mildly.
Well, and like looking at the stellium, the Capricorn stellium is all across the board within Capricorn, plus Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And again, that's why I asked about the connectivity from the stelliums against each other, because they're so focused within a Capricorn heavy with the authority. And that's something that's quite interesting to me. It'd be like saying you were born with every planet in alignment. It's a very heavy system area, with speaking of Capricorn specifically. And then each planet in its own, one after the other on its own alignment, Saturn, Uranus, and then Neptune. So strong Pluto with the other preceding 3 planets all next to each other in the same sign. And, that's what was very interesting to me.
Yeah, so I would say it makes you a heavyweight in terms of making things work. You wouldn't stop before things work, because the 6th house is also the function of things, functionality, also the function of the body. So you would be extremely disciplined with yourself. Almost expect the same of others, but not everyone has as much discipline as you have.
Yes.
So it's probably you cannot expect as much of others in discipline than you know from yourself. And then this is also your own function in life, like your calling, the 6th house. And so seeing that the ruler of the 6th house, Saturn, is at the beginning of the 6th house, that this is a message. Discipline, almost like the scientific mind, or literally the scientific mind. This would also support studies and acquisition of knowledge like galore, and in depth, and not letting go. And it can take time. It can take years, and you still sit there and work on it until it works.
Like the quote you had about the steak. The quote you had about the steak is much like the quote that I have actually with knowledge. And again, I don't remember who said, but I love the quote of the day we stop learning is then the day we die. I must
Yeah.
learn as much as possible. I'm not good with
Yeah.
stagnation. So it makes sense.
Yeah. And also with the mind, I heard, I will send you the link later. I heard this morning, I heard a psychologist, and she said that discomfort and patience is the admission ticket to a meaningful life. And this is basically how I would translate your Saturn at the start of the sixth house as a ruler of the sixth house, that you, for you almost easily, for everyone else it would be like motivation, concentration, forcing yourself, and for you it's just like, you do this.
Part of the day.
Yeah, it's just like normal that you go sit there and puzzle it out, and the next day you continue puzzling, and then you continue, and so on.
Yep.
And it would come easily to you, like almost effortless, because this is what drives you.
Absolutely.
And it's a passion, because this stellium here, I mean, lucky you, has a trine from Venus. And Venus, even in Virgo, is someone who loves things that make sense, that are systematic, organized, clarified, put together, and useful.
Yep.
So that is awesome. I mean, you should go and invent something. With this constellation, you'll still invent something, especially with this Uranus.
Well, like you said, with the organization, I mean, it's kind of a paradox for a lot of people. When I talk to anybody about this, they don't quite understand it because it's kind of contradictory. But for me, even with occult learnings and, anything that's supernatural or anything, I always have to compliment both the abstract of it and, hey, there's not a clear answer, along with I will regiment this out as much as possible. We are going to have a electromagnetic field transducer to check everything, and every book with a citation, and people don't tend to understand a lot, is I do both. I must.
Yes. No, and it's like easygoing for you, and from the most natural thing to do. So it's not that you sit there like some of our colleagues in science think, oh, that's a citation. And it's like, of course, it's a lot of work. Look up the correct literature and puzzling things together. But for you, this is something you naturally do without feeling it as a burden at all.
No, I mean, simple things like any news articles, and, well, this study says, well, I'm not reading the article. Give me the link to the study, because I need to see the study first. Yes. Well, look, your methodology is wrong. You didn't have a cohort study with it. It was 10 participants. Well, this is not a study. This is a survey.
Awesome.
Again, you are very correct. It must make sense.
I recognize this because I had to force myself. So my Saturn is not as well placed as yours. And now I'm also in science. And this was hard in the beginning. But now I appreciate it. So I learned how to integrate the Saturn energy for myself. And now it works beautifully. I also recognize these things. So I recognize in your chart that I thought I would like to have this set. I would have had the easier career.
And my wife would say that she wished I had a little bit more of what you're saying, because I don't let go of things like that. It'll be 10 days later after her and I talk about something, and I'll send her a study or something. She's like, what's this? She's already beyond it. She moved on. I'm like, no, there's more to this.
Yeah.
So yes.
Keep it. It's beautiful. This is a talent, right? It's a talent.
We complement each other well on that. That's definitely a power thing. Is kids can have some issue, and she can talk the emotional, and I'll be like, okay, do you need a Band-Aid? Is this hospital?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, so my son actually got a bead stuck in his ear once.
Oh.
And without a tool, it would not have came out. We would have had to take him to probably ER that night or the next day, preferably that night. And for, my wife's like, what are we going to do? Well, I have a curette, which is like a a little staff thing that you can use to clean out the ear. Like, okay, give me the curette, put his head down, pop it out. Took 30 seconds, like, all right, go on and play. And those are the things that I appreciate, is the practical knowledge of the world, because that just saved me probably thousands of dollars in the ER.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Very much true on that aspect.
Yeah, and less invasive overall. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So continuing with your wedges, we have one between Mercury and, I won't say the icy, but with Lilith. Have you worked with Lilith?
No, actually, that's something that I've seen just a little bit more on, and tends to be a pain for people. And so I've kind of laid that to the side for now.
This is, I think here, I have it opposite. My Lilith is on the MC, on midheaven. And that's also like ancestral memory. So it's just an indication there as well. And since you have a sextile between Mercury and Lilith, it's basically the mean attributes of Lilith go away if it has favorable aspects to either Mercury or Jupiter.
Yeah.
And if Jupiter is strong, which is not 100% the case here because it's in a void, of course, but it's a favorable aspect to Mercury. So that also means that with the mind, you would get behind the ancestral information.
Yep.
And it's like easily supported, so no harm from Lilith in this chart.
I like that, because I've already gone through the family search thing.
No, you have. I mean, it's interesting because I have once had a colleague from the university approach me with, can you have a look at my chart? And I saw that Lilith was on the rising. And I said there were problems at birth, at your own birth. And she said, yes, my mother died on birth, when giving birth. So she grew up with her grandparents. And this is basically when you have Lilith on the rising, and with unfavorable aspects even, then this can go wrong.
From the beginning, something, yeah. Makes sense.
So, but the aspects matter. And for Lilith, mainly the rising is a theme. And if you have it on the axis somewhere, and you have the transiting Lilith somewhere on some axis, you might also feel it. So if you have like a time machine and you find Lilith on one of the corners, like MC, descendant, IC, or rising, this could be moments of discomfort.
Yeah.
Also, again, depending on the aspect, because now then you have a trine to Jupiter, then it's like less of a hassle.
Yes, whether it's the good aspects or more or less than that,
Okay. Then we have a sextile between the northern lunar node. Here we have the true node at 25 something degrees. 56 or 26. And 22 is MC, so it's a trine to the IC and Lilith, and sextile to midheaven. That means like your northern lunar node would point at what you're meant to do in this life, and it's at the start of the 8th house. So it means you will deal with death, and basically you did that.
Yep. Yeah. That was one of the harder aspects.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that also this is slightly supportive to your life goals and overall outcomes.
Doing the chart, and that's where I've discovered that I want to stay focused on health. So.
Yeah. And so this will be very, very supportive. Also, everything that you learned from this, because now it's in Aquarius, and this would mean it would be a very free and inquisitive, almost inquisitive approach to themes of death and transformation. especially also the theme of transformation. So it's death is one meaning and transformation is the other. So
Yep.
Being free to transform whatever you wish. So there's an extreme freedom to work with the mind and to reprogram it. I don't know if you've heard about the, it's called neuroplasticity of the brain.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I
would
don't know.
work for you brilliantly.
Well, and so I don't know if this is something that you don't say on your channel, so feel free to edit it out for sure. But in the last, year and some change, and
Okay.
I had an ego death, and that was immensely life-changing for me.
Yeah.
So
I think that is
I appreciate the
yes.
support in the chart with it because I don't intend to leave that field anytime soon.
As far as I know, it doesn't go away anyway. Well, this.
I'm hoping it grows.
Yeah, this is something like a revelation that the mind will remember forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and
Also
so
the
the
soul.
science,
Yeah.
quantum.
Yeah.
That I don't know if you've in your field with cognitive have looked into that at all, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Cognitive
Yes.
immortality with quantum, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Brilliant, because it shows us that we are able to much more, and that mankind is underutilizing the brain, greatly underutilizing the brain, even less so as we progress, like outsourcing a lot of stuff to devices. Yep. That our brain would need to do by itself.
Yep.
So like from the nitty-gritty things to the grand themes, and to finding answers without Googling them.
Yes. It's something that I rag on my wife about my kids with. My kids are in elementary school, and it annoys the crap out of me that they're nothing on but doing tech. And I'm definitely that old crotchety type father where it's like, why can't you just learn this and then know it? Don't rely on the electronics. Don't rely on tech. You need to learn it and know it yourself.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely a belief I have as well.
Yeah. And and the neuroplasticity means you need to have done it and utilized it, so it is constructed in your brain. Constructivism is basically the application of that. So then if your brain knows it and you can repeat it, and it will be anchored there.
That's actually a military thing that you do as well. In the Army, we do a know, do, teach. You need to know it first, and someone teaches it to you, and you need to do it hands-on with some authority that can help you maybe, and then you need to teach it. And once you've then taught it, then you are told that
you're at it. Yeah, then you're at it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I think this is also meant here with this northern lunar node in this inquisitive Aquarius, to keep doing that and to keep searching for knowledge, to transform and renew and always carry on the same things. Actually, it's a very beautiful chart. So really, really, really good. That is like awesome. Because someone so kind with so much curiosity for knowledge and for carrying on and making things work, caring for others. So it's like very good. Yeah, very nice.
And I really, the positive things out of it, the things that I've definitely struggled with is the opposition to that, because that's the thing is, when it's been hard for me to watch news or anything, because it's completely not the area in which the world in which I want to live in. So it's definitely something I've had to go inside my own mind, because the external seems to be a lot more pressure for me that I just don't understand. I don't understand people's actions so much with that. So it definitely helps. I will say that.
I understand. It's the same thing that I always grappled with. And then our astrology teacher, actually one of the teachers, he said with astrology you also learn that there will be the light and the dark.
Yeah.
And it's 50-50.
One extreme to the other just doesn't work. I don't like the people that are on negativity any more than I like the people that are the and not to rub labels the wrong way, but the quintessential light worker that sees nothing but positivity,
and it's not realistic.
It's not realistic to me, because I've seen plenty of true nature negative, and negativity does exist, and people that tend to bury their head in the sand on that and say everybody has the light and all that. It's like, not in the real world. Maybe in the afterlife type of situation if you're talking that, but I don't deal with the real world in that uber immense positivity light only. Absolutely. I'm definitely the devil's advocate with my wife. I will argue either side. So it's very true.
Yeah, at least we have to expect it and not be surprised, like be mature enough to guard yourself and not be disappointed if others fail, because they will. And we will ourselves fail, and we will have to be prepared for our own failure as well, to make mistakes, and we will. And if we break down because we've made a mistake or because someone else made a mistake, we're not going to get far. Yeah. Especially also with parents. I see a lot of, with you, that's very positively aspected here, because your 11th house with the moon is also the children. Like everything revolving around children, how they become. The 5th house would be the attitude towards children, and the 11th house would be how they turn out.
Interesting.
So here, communicative.
Yep. Both my kids, they will tell you about every single feeling they have and everything they enjoy. They will show you everything they build. The house is full of artwork from them that we cannot throw away. So yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. My daughter's the super empath in the house.
Yeah, so both kids very positive emotionality, I would think.
Generally, the one thing I would say is my son is 6, and he has more of my power construct. If it is not his way, he has a problem. And so routine is broken down, he will have a fit. So he comes to expect these things that we do daily, and if so they get 30 minutes of tech time. And if he will not be happy. So
yeah, but still way to go, right?
Oh yeah, well, 6 and 8, so they have to learn that
still
emotional
quite a while.
stuff.
Yeah, still quite a while to integrate all that. I feel kids today have a special challenge that our generation can give them well, like learning how to interpret feelings that are your own and differentiate them from what others gave you, the feelings others gave you, like what you absorbed, like the anger that you absorbed from someone else, which isn't yours, and knowing that this is not yours, and where it comes from.
I love that, because that's something I hit with my kids all the time. My wife is big about that. It's you can have empathy, and if someone's mean to you at school, well, okay, it's unfortunate, but it is their emotion that they're putting onto you. That doesn't mean that you are lesser than or anything.
That you have to take it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think this generation is going to be very heavy into that understanding.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward, actually, because they're all asking these questions now and learning about it.
Being given the tools now.
Yes, smart. It's like looking forward to this time. Yeah. Very, very good. I'm thinking, where have we been? Yeah, where have we been? We haven't had your Mars. And this brings me to the midheaven and IC theme. Typically, the mother would be on the midheaven. So your mother would be represented by Mars and Pluto. But honestly, I'm not sure if this is the case here. Who would you think is rather representing your mother, the Venus in Virgo, like a very practical, loving, kind person, or a noble character, warrior type. You also get women warriors, like.
And I'm glad that you specified that specifically, because I don't have an answer for you, because that's something that I struggled with growing up. My mother was very doting, and but then she was also very free with me. Like I have two older sisters, and they had very rigid home life with rules, sneaking out or anything. And whereas when I was a teenager, I could just simply ask, "Hey, can I go to a party?" Okay. Are there going to be girls there? Probably. There going to be alcohol there? Probably. Okay. Do you have a DD? It was never, "Oh, you're underage, don't do that." It was, if you're going to make adult situation, you better have an adult answer. And so it's very independent. But when I joined the Army, she cried. She's like, "You're going to jump out of a plane and die." So
his mother.
it was actually kind of contradictory in some aspects. She was very free with me, but she was also very doting and protective. And I think that comes a lot, honestly, with her family. She had not a very good relationship with her mother. She was very much on the side of her dad, my maternal grandfather. But he was also military, very stringent. And so it's kind of like this very middle path type of thing, where one day it could be more feminine energy, and then the next is more masculine. Her aspirations for me were, be a lawyer, be a doctor, play football, that type of thing. But yet she was supportive. She may have not just liked it. And so it was very much a lot of questioning growing up of, well, where do you actually believe? I mean, where do you lie? So really the answer, I honestly is, I can't tell you, because it was both.
I have it already. And it's from something else, because now you say you didn't meet your father, and given Lilith here on the IC, I think this is him. So your mother must be represented by Mars, and this would actually play into this protective type of warrior mentality that your mother showed. That you
she had her aspects of it. She was abused in her marriage prior to my father's, physically. And then I had a stepfather figure from about age 1 up to about 15, and he was definitely an alcoholic. And so there's a protective measure for sure.
Yeah. So I think it would be the case that your mother is represented here on the MC, and the ruler would be then Mars. And so it's a very much value-based type of approach, like very much focused on a noble attitude. The adult answer that you described would play very much into a Mars, like making decisions that are noble of character.
Very much.
And appreciating that, actually. Okay. Yeah, I think then this Mars would be representing also the mother, and it's in conjunct with the southern lunar node. So that means this noble attitude is something that you brought into this life as like a talent. But you're not the warrior. You won't play the warrior.
It goes right into what you said about family heritage. I did the research after she passed away. She passed away in 2015. So I mean, this was definitely after the fact. It was not like I put it subconsciously in my mind to do because of family.
Yeah.
But her family side goes back to William Wallace, who is Braveheart, and then mine, I have like 3 coats of arms from crusades and everything else in Germany from my father's side. So there was a lot of noble military service type of stuff going on. And it's just, I've always struggled with that, only in the sense that I don't want my whole life culmination to be only that. And that's all my family has known. So I've very much gone to the internal mental aspects of things where it's all on me. I've really, in the last few years, gotten away from competitiveness with others, because it's, at the end of the day, it was easy for me to get away from, or run away with, rather. So it became too much of a life choice of mine.
And I think that's very well indicated here, because the southern lunar node is a memory that you bring with, and the heritage and the talent maybe also, but not what you're going to do in this life. So you started the military, but then you went into medical, and that's basically indicating already what's going on here. That freedom is the mindset, and help and society, because Aquarius is also working for society. And working for transforming society would be the lunar node in Aquarius. Like lunar node in Aquarius is working for society. And the 8th house, transforming society. So you work at this, like on, I always call it the club of we are the good ones.
The change, but it is good.
Yeah. So like contributing and helping and considering what is good for society. And I think this also describes this opposition here, also describes your dislike of political environments that are agitated to bring people up against each other.
Yep. I'm the first one to, I make a sport of picking on political stuff because of that. Whether it's, where the, I don't know if you're too politically involved, but, when it's left side versus right type of stuff, I sit in the middle and I call everybody an idiot. And it's not the nicest thing to do, but I find it very hard to partake in one side or the other, because I find an issue with everything. It's, I can't help it.
Yeah, because if you fight a war against the others, you're still fighting, and it's not ending that way. And both sides fight. Typically, that these days it used to be better, not too long ago. But there is a quote by Gandhi. Now I remember at least who said it. That if you end a war like you started, you end it.
It becomes a tit for tat thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit one person, they hit you back, and then all of a sudden everybody feels justified to keep fighting.
Exactly. Yeah. And to not fight ends the war. And this is basically your constellation here. This is what it says.
Well, and that's true. I just want to get to that point where I have that internal peace, because that, if anything, one thing that I pulled that was negative from my chart was I have a lot of the mental aspects of, anger or agitation when it comes to being resisted. Like you said, being free. Anybody that tells me what I can and can't do, I have an automatic issue with you. So that's why I have the issues with anything with organized religions, politics. You watch everybody and what they say, and as soon as you say I can't do it, well, I'm a grown person. I have my own rights. Yeah, I will go do it, and you will not stop me. So that's definitely something I've struggled with.
Yeah, probably if someone tells you can't do, I'm sure you can't do this, wanting you to do it, this would be the right approach to make you do it.
That's how my competitiveness starts. Is, military, you're told, well, I'm faster than you. Okay, well, I'm about to be faster than you, so, because you just said I can't be. It's anything like that.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What I wanted to address also in your chart is the Jupiter. We haven't had Jupiter yet in our tour here. And it's the ruler of the 5th house, so everything you love. And also entertainment. So basically, you're not too sure about what you love. Because it would be value dependent. Basically, you work around this Jupiter here because you can't get hold of it. Something that's like not tangible. But anyway, you have Venus to know what you love. So it's not the only route, right? The other thing is the 5th house is also everything for entertainment. And what I'm almost 100% sure is that you're not a gambler.
Nope, never in my life, and will never.
Because you don't know what that is. It's like,
I don't understand. So with
I understand the concept.
That actually falls with the same as addiction for me. I don't understand it. I can't develop an addiction. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
no, you can't. Yeah.
I've never understood it.
Yeah, this is the Jupiter thing here. But what this Jupiter also does, it has a trine to your life's purpose, like working towards transforming the society for the better. And so there is always like a permanent, intangible support to whatever you do. This is like a lucky aspect.
Well, that helps.
Very nice. Yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, it's also probably like an extreme depth, because now whatever is in the void of course doesn't materialize. So in your case, addiction and entertainment doesn't materialize in the sense that you go out gambling, for instance, or develop addictions. But
I rotate hobbies because none of them appeal to me.
Yeah, I mean, the hobby would be your values, I think, because there's a heavy weight here anyway. It's less in the sense that like I go play golf or something. It's rather what I love to do will relate to my values, and this is the second house, and this is the noble attitude, and then this interplays with your lunar node in Aquarius, so like working for society. And I think that you'll be busy, as we said, 400 years. You don't have time to ponder about gambling, and exactly, you won't get the time for it because there's so much, and you will always find something new. You're not finished with the first one, already the next one rocks up, the next theme. But I see that you still try to nail down any issue. Even if 17 others arise, you will still go and put the lid on every pot that you opened, so it's not forgotten. And this makes the amount of things and the number of years until 400 and counting. You will be busy with the stuff. Yeah.
I don't multitask. I go one after the other. And again, it annoys my wife because that's exactly what I do. Is she'll give me 3 or 4 things and I'll stop her. And I will actually like talk her down. No, what is the one task you wanted? Okay, I'm going to go do that. You can give me the others later because I do not multitask.
Yeah, and you have a list and you work it off. And the interesting thing is, please tell your wife I said hello. The brain doesn't multitask. It's serial and not parallel.
Absolutely.
Can't.
She doesn't like when I tell her that.
Technically, it's not possible. If we try to do 2 things at a time, we will do both things at around about a 40% level of quality. And at school, this is not passed.
Yep.
40% is not sufficient in both tasks.
Yep.
You can only multitask if you are on 2 channels. You can hold a baby and the phone and speak on the phone while you hold the baby. You might run against the wall. It doesn't mean you can
follow the conversation properly as well as comfort the baby.
Yeah, but as soon as the baby starts to cry or whatever, the phone conversation will be either over or like somewhere. It's like,
yep.
You're trying to pour milk while you hold a baby, and the milk will be all over the table. If the baby squeaks, then the milk.
You're taking care of the baby.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a very healthy way to approach the brain to do things serial, because you will have the highest quality output and the fastest. You're also faster serial than parallel.
Yep. Yeah, I've tried to talk to my wife about that being she has her degree in psychology. I have no degree. I can't complete the coursework because, like you said, I have too much inquiry and discipline towards my methodology. So being told how to think is not my thing. So, we'll talk about that. I say the same thing as, no, you're not multitasking. She'll say she's doing some paper and she's watching TV. The TV's on. And she's like, no, I'm watching the TV. I'm like, no, you're watching your screen and you're typing a paper. You're not watching the TV. Well, I can do both. No, you are not. That is not happening.
Well,
so
what's your course of study, if I may ask?
What, hers?
Yours.
Mine.
Yeah, yours.
Oh, undergrad psychology and medical science.
Well,
so
this would be indicated because the sixth house is also for medical.
Yeah, being a medic in the Army gets you an associate's in medical science. That translates over. So I got a head start at least.
Yeah, but I honestly, I think that would be something useful. I also started now, like it's a second master's in psychology. I've coming from information and cognition science, but somehow I'm very similar. It resonates with me so well. Like nobody tells me what to think, and this is what prevented me from studying psychology in the first place, because I didn't like the rigidity of the discipline. And I'm also very extremely interested in medical issues overall and diagnosis. And oftentimes I really get it, but I said I wouldn't have managed to study it because it's like so very much against my natural approach to health overall.
Yep.
But on the other hand, I thought now with psychology, screw it, I'm going to do this now anyway. And I will nail this down. And even if I don't like measuring people with statistics, I will do this now. Force myself to.
This is where the whole change attitude comes in, because I entirely agree with you. And that's what my pressure was, because I worked with a physician assistant in the Army that he was very much about like your methodology. He, if someone had a symptom of something, he would keep testing, whereas other PAs, doctors stopped because they were tested for this. Well, they said there was nothing found in that specific area. And I remember this PA specifically saying something that shocked me because of medical science being so rigid. He said something to the effect of, a lot of practitioners in medicine forget that there is a certain amount of art that goes into it, and that they need to think like an artist sometimes and build a bigger picture. And so if my patient is still having symptoms, I will continue to test them, and I will not stop until we find something. And I really appreciate that, because that's much of my view. If you're tested for cancer and you don't have it, well, I'm not going to stop. You have these symptoms. I want to keep looking, because you deserve entire health, not
exactly. And
symptoms.
We will figure it out. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's my job
and so
to
I
help
agree
you
much the
figure
same
it
on
out.
that.
Yeah. And what I thought is now with, because a friend of mine, he's professor, the master class for piano. So it's like an artist, music all his life. And he said, we were speaking about jazz. He said, jazz, you can play jazz when you know how to play. But you need to know how to play first. So you need to go through this route and play your off. And then you can start playing jazz. No before. Yeah. And I think it's the same here, that probably kneeling through these classes and accepting that something goes against my core, even sometimes, also even from the approach, not even from the content, but from the approach, the rigidity of the approach. Then I said to myself, I'm treating this like another piano class. I will
learn the basics, and then
and then I do what I want anyway.
Yeah.
And I see this with you as well. Similar approach. Yeah. No one tells me what to think. Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate the freedom of it, because I can think for myself. I can read the data myself. You don't need to tell me how to think. I'll decide that. But from there is when the discussion can happen, because when you get the basics of it, then you know what's going on at that basic level. Then it goes to the abstract. What could happen? What may happen? Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I appreciate that part.
I think we're somewhat through your chart, isn't it?
You have answered the questions I had.
Okay, cool. Oh, happy to hear. And I'm also happy to continue if something comes up.
I appreciate it. I mean, is it acceptable to just reach out to you via email still? Or
Sure, anytime. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Happy to hear.
Well, because you mentioned some things further down the road, like tarot cards and stuff.
Yeah.
I have delved into that, and I like to play a game with my daughter where shuffle up the deck and have her ask questions and flip the cards, and they always have answers. And so that's something later on I'm trying to expand into, is that area.
Yeah. But what I really like is the Lenormand cards. I don't know if you've heard about them.
Lenormand?
Lenormand, yeah.
Yes, I have them.
Very interesting. I love those more than the regular tarot. The regular tarot is a little bit rigid, but I mean, it has the grand history. It goes back to the medieval times. And it's very much thought out. It's a similar concept, I think, like the I Ching. It's also similar. I also have I Ching cards here, and I think this is like awesome, like inspiring. Really, really good.
I didn't know that there was cards to it. I've heard of them. Heard of the practice of.
Yeah, it's similar. I think it's a similar idea, basically, because it's like a wholesome philosophy. Like that the human and the society and everything is a whole. And by tapping into concepts like cards that comprise the whole, it's like almost this gestalt thing in psychology, that either something is missing, then we have to add it. And if too much is on, you have to take it off.
Reduce it.
Yeah. And I think this inspiration is extremely nice. And just one brief story from a seminar. I gave a seminar, and also astrology and all kinds of. I'm also a trained shaman.
Oh, wow.
And the little daughter, I think she was 12 or something, of one of the participants was there. So she also participated. A really smart kid. I wanted to learn astrology at 12. It's like a kid.
That's rare.
Yeah, awesome. And now we had like this last round, and I had like a little book from Paulo Coelho, The Light Warrior. And it's like this tiny book, and it's like all little stories in it. And we agreed that everyone would open up the book somewhere and read the story as a message to your day. Now everybody does this. And then the little one said, well, if I open the book again and I have the same question, then basically I would get the same page.
Yeah.
Smart kid.
So you have the question, you already know where to find the answer.
Yeah. So I gave her the book, and everyone had remembered the story that she read. And she got the book, and she opened the book, and she opened the same page.
Yep.
And so this was really stunning.
Yeah. It has the big picture at such a younger age.
Yeah.
That's a lot of maturity.
Yeah.
And most kids that that are that young or younger, it's more of the instant gratification. They have the answer, or they have the question, they just want the answer. And that's something my kids do. They don't want to look for it, they just want the answer.
Yeah, that's something like a healthy impatience, and sometimes frustrating, but well, we know that.
Yes.
And they will get to learn it. Yeah, it's good. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation, and let's keep in touch, right?
Oh, I very well.
Thanks
very
a lot.
Well, Will. I
really appreciate it. Thank you. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too.